Welcome to the Jboy Show, hosted by Jake Crain, the fastest growing sports show in the nation.
I'm Coach Hugh Freeze.
This is Super Bowl champion Brandon Graham.
Hey, this is DJ Shockley, and you're watching.
And thanks for watching the Jboy Show.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for hopping in on another edition of the Jboy Show. Got another unbelievable coach on today, current head coach for the Mississippi State Bulldogs, Coach Mike Leach. Very excited to get to him. Before we do, though, I do got to give a shout out to our partners at betonline.ag. Head over there today. The online casino is always open. We got Major League Baseball, NASCAR, golf, hockey, cornhole, whatever you want to bet on. If it's legit, they're going to have it. Parlays, props, teasers, pleasers, everything. Go to betonline.ag and check them out today and tell them that Jboy sent you. But without further ado, Coach Mike Leach. Coach Leach, welcome to the show. I was thinking about dressing up like a pirate when you came on, but decided not to.
No, you should have. I mean, a little skull and crossbones never hurt anybody. As a matter of fact, I'm watching. There's a good show on Netflix, which I haven't finished just yet. I've read all about all these guys called Pirate Kingdom.
Yes, and I've seen it, Mike. I've seen the whole thing. I don't want to spoil it for you. It's really good. How much have you seen it at all yet?
Well, yeah, I'm like, I think I'm 2/3 of the way through. But the thing that's interesting about it, and I've read about all those guys, every one of them. It kind of it kind of carves out the relationship. I mean, those guys all knew each other, the Spanish Main pirates, and so many of them knew each other and spent time around one another, and it really is quite remarkable that way. And so I thought it was really good so far.
Yeah, well, where the thing that got me, the way that Blackbeard went out, I didn't like the way that Blackbeard went out. I know they had to be factually true, but I was hoping you'd kind of go out in a different way, but I guess they got to tell the facts. And Coach, I know obviously the pirate, we hear it in your background and stuff like that. Has it, and I know you got this question 10,000 times, but what kind of got you into the pirate situation? Like, was it something just as a kid you always liked that you gravitated towards and you just kept that as an adult? What kind of got that going?
Well, it was kind of circumstance. It was, I'd read about pirates. I'd read about a lot of things. Pirates was one of them. And I used to give my team speeches on all kinds of subjects, anything from, grizzly bears to Lewis and Clark to Daniel Boone to World War II, anything to, because that's the thing with football. In order to be any good, you have to do a lot of the same things over and over again and just feel better. So the people and the stories is what kind of livens things up. But just kind of motivation or diversion, talk about some other subjects and draw correlation. And one of them, one was on pirates, and I had an actual sword. And how are you going to swing your sword? Are you going to swing it passively, close your eyes, get stabbed, or are you going to swing it aggressively and out of control, or are you going to execute? And then basically, as a football player, your body's your sword, and you sharp weight room and you execute it by doing all the drills. And Michael Lewis, who's a famous writer, probably the most prolific writer we have out there right now, who wrote Moneyball and The Big Short, and Flyers Poker and Blindside, wrote the book Blindside. And so then he came and followed our team for a week at Texas Tech, and I got to I started missing him when he was gone, because I had a buddy to talk to all week, and so he did a story on our team, and then interviewed our players. And when he interviewed the players, they talked about the pirate speech. And then when he wrote about that, it was in New York Times Magazine is where the article is. I think it's still on the net. But New York Times Magazine, which goes everywhere, then after everybody read that, as soon as that came out, pirate flags popped up all over campus. You know, the football team, the band had, you know, a pirate song. I mean, and which I think was fun for the fans, fun for the players, and you get all kinds of cool pirate gear. I mean, people send me pirate books, pirate scarves, pirate shirts, pirate hats. So you get good gear, and then they'll nickname you or tag you with whatever they want. You don't have any control over it, but thinking about what I could be stuck with, the pirate stuff's not so bad.
Yeah, oh, without a doubt. You know, from the Pirate standpoint, you won Pac-12 Coach of the Year. You were Big 12 Coach of the Year. You've been to different places in different regions and now to SEC. Have you taken a little bit from each of those conferences and those experiences and used it now in the SEC, or is it just kind of a totally new ball game?
I think it's more similar than different. It confirms your approach because as a coach throughout your career, I mean, you've always battled, struggled, thought, rethought, trial and error to have the best approach you could. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's confirmed it more than anything, really.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And how would you say, Coach, you know, because we look at your style, we hear air raid, you know, run and gun, throw it all over the place, this, that, and the other. How would you describe your offensive style or your offense? Would you say it's air raid, or would you say it's kind of your collection, your secret recipe with some air raid tendencies?
Well, to be honest, I invented the term air raid in a backward sort of way. I mean,
please tell us that.
We were sitting around when I was coaching at Iowa Wesleyan, and that would, I guess many would say that's the birthplace of the air raid, which, to be perfectly honest, you know, the air raid was a byproduct of a lot of good offensive schemes and stuff that we borrowed and plucked and used, in some cases thought of ourselves, that you know, a collection of plays that complemented one another. And then, sometimes we tweaked them. Occasionally we'd invent something, and then we were sitting there at Iowa Wesleyan College and thinking about the offense. We're throwing it all the time. And this guy came in and he had an air raid siren, play this air raid siren at our games. And, and we were talking about what we could call the offense, and you know, in a dopey sort of fashion. I just sat there, well, how about the air raid? Well, and then we did call it the air raid just a little bit, you know, and then but about the time it hits a newspaper article or something, then it's forever the air raid. And and so we you know, a lot of what we run offensively is same stuff we did at Iowa Wesleyan College. And then throughout the country, NFL and high school and colleges, I mean, all of them have some air raid concepts. And I don't know if they borrowed them from us. In some cases, they probably did. But in a number of other cases, they might have just looked at good concepts that they liked elsewhere and sort of combined them together. But there's a lot of air raid philosophy out there, and I think it's the most dominant one in the country. In the last several Super Bowls, both teams have had some air raid philosophy type of plays going that they're running, and I think that you know, the biggest thing is, and I got to thinking, you know, what exactly does the offense try to accomplish? What does the defense try to accomplish? Offense. The simplest way to look at offense, in my opinion, is an offense is trying to create space. Offenses try to create space. Defenses try to restrict space. And basically air raid, through your sets and formations, you may try to cover the field, but regardless of your formation, your play selection and your configuration of plays, they're trying to attack as much space as you can, and the more space, the more room you have, the more you spread out the defenders, the harder it is for them to switch things off. Yeah.
Well, you know, Coach, something I think, and I'm going to get to, you know, why you ended up deciding to go to Mississippi State and obviously the big game against LSU leading off last year, but something I think you guys do a really good job of, and I want to ask this while I got you on here. Some people will say, oh, well, Mike Leach needs to run the ball more, this, that, the other. Number one, what do you say to those people? And then number two, the way you guys use the back out of the backfield, do you almost consider it, whether it's the swing, and I'm not talking about it in the check down, but just that quick read, get it out to the back. Do you kind of use that to supplement the run game as opposed to just turning around and handing it off?
Well, I think that yards spend the same. I think run or pass, you're trying to figure out the best way to get yards and attack the defense. And sometimes it's the run specifically, sometimes it's the pass specifically, and usually it's a combination of both. And I do think it's very important to get the ball in everybody's hands. If you don't, you're not doing a very good utilizing that particular resource. And then as far as the running back goes, the running back in our offense is always the Iron Man of our offense. I mean, especially when you consider what we ask him to do. We ask him to rush the ball. We ask him to catch the ball. We ask him to pass protect. And we ask him to run block. I mean, we ask him to do everything that exists in football except tackle. And come to find out, most of them could tackle because they stick on special teams too. In the end, the running back should have the most. The running back position, you might play with 2 or 3 running backs, but the running back position, year in and year out, has the most yards of any other position on the team. And oftentimes, in our case, and we're very proud of this, we'll have more than anybody else's running back position in the conference. Not always, but sometimes, and we try to have that distinction because they're the best athlete on the team, oftentimes. And then the other thing, they're the closest to the quarterback. They're the easiest to get the ball to. So running backs should provide the most production.
So really, it should almost be coined another term than running back in the Mike Leach offense, kind of like the like you said, the Iron Man, the all everything. And Coach, I got to ask you, it was obviously huge news when you decided to take the head job at Mississippi State. Brought a lot of buzz, obviously entering the state as well with Lane Kiffin. But what was it about the Mississippi State job, Coach, that stuck out to you that at the end, if you don't mind sharing, kind of pushed you toward taking that job and entering what is the toughest division in the toughest conference in our solar system, in my belief, in college football, at least in our solar system?
Well, I loved Washington State. I loved everything about Washington State. But then, there's a point to where you want to have different experiences and see a different part of the country. It was kind of simple. It was to kind of see the other side of the mountain, so to speak. And then I coached at Valdosta State early in my career, and I loved Valdosta State. I was there for 5 years, and if you think about it, was really kind of the Division II SEC. And I'd been in the SEC before at Kentucky. I was an assistant at the University of Kentucky, and Mississippi State reminded me a lot of Valdosta on a Division I level, and as far as the town, the people, that sort of thing, and also the fact that it's really quite similar to Wyoming if you think about it, and people don't think about it this way. Once in a while, you find somebody that's from Mississippi that's gone elk hunting up in Wyoming or something like that. But you think about it. I mean, a lot of pickups, people hunting fish, just very down to earth people that like being outdoors. Wyoming, the mountains are better, but the weather's better at Mississippi, and there's more water. And so the people and kind of just the social structure and stuff like that, it was a very, very, very Wyoming type of deal, I thought. And I really like it here. And you only get so many years in this business, and you want to spend them in such a fashion that you get as many experiences as you can.
Without a doubt. And it's funny you make that comparison. Speaking of fishing, make sure you head over to monsterbass.com. Use that Jboy promo code Jboy10. You get 15% off your first order. Their subscription fishing service. They'll send tackle, bait, whatever you want to call it, to your home. They know where you are. I've got some, tried it out. It's unbelievable. Head over to monsterbass.com. Use that promo code Jboy10. We're here with Mississippi State head coach Mike Leach. Really appreciate you joining us, Coach. And, we talked about, kind of why you went to Mississippi State. You get there last year, your first game, you play LSU coming off a national championship, and really you just run them out of the gym. Can you talk about, Coach, that first experience in the SEC, getting that win? And then I want to kind of talk a little bit about spring and going into year 2 here.
Well, first, I caught a 5-pound bass the other day.
There you go.
And although it's not a monster, it was the biggest bass that I've ever caught. And, because I come from trout country,
okay,
and smallmouth bass some, but I was very excited to catch my 5-pound bass. And there's plenty of listeners out there, especially in SEC country, that would be quite unimpressed. But it was a baby step for me, headed the right direction, I think.
You should have mounted it.
Yeah, I don't know. They say they get bigger out here, so I'm going to hang on.
Oh, they do.
But no, LSU is outstanding. And first of all, the setting environment to play football at LSU is unparalleled. Now, it was a little bit diluted from the standpoint that there weren't as many people in the stands, but you got to kind of check out, feel, and touch the grandeur of LSU. And then they did have, which I've never quite figured this one out, they did have kind of that, what do you call it, Twilight Zone figures frozen in the stands, the cutouts. And it was almost kind of, there was an eeriness to it.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. It seems creepy. To the point where I wish I would have had as many ghoulish cutouts as possible.
But in maybe different poses or something. But anyway, of course, we knew we were playing an extremely good team. We knew we were playing the defending national champion, and we also knew that we were playing some of the most highly recruited players in the country. I was proud of our guys for because we were a very young team. We were the youngest BCS team in America last year, so I was proud of them for kind of staying calm within themselves. And it was an exciting back and forth game, and it was a pretty explosive game on both sides. Big chunks of yards exchanged, and it was an exciting game. It was an exciting debut. We didn't follow it up quite as well as we hoped, but anyways, it was a good start. We, your first 3 games, you learn more from your first 3 games this season than any others, and we certainly did.
Yeah, and Coach, that game, it's funny you bring up those cardboard cutouts. To me, I actually thought about that during the season when they'd show them, and it took me back to kind of like the Ghostbusters scene where the painting and the eyes keep moving depending on how you're looking at the painting. And I wonder if they could have parlayed that into any of those cardboard cutouts on the field. But, Coach, I watched that game last year, obviously it being your debut, LSU coming off that national championship. And one thing that I wanted to ask you is when you're in a game like that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way it looked to me is you guys were shredding them in man coverage and they would not get out of it. Whenever you have a game like that and you see a team not getting out of man, do you start to feel like Super Mario when you're just like you just ate a mushroom and you're getting bigger and bigger and bigger? Because I mean, it literally it was flame on the whole game that they stayed in man. Were you surprised by that?
I was a little bit because we expected them to play zone. Because defensively they're at LSU. Because Bo Pelini was there, and I've played against Bo a number of times, and he usually plays kind of that shell coverage. and I kind of thought that that's what we might see again. And although, and the last time I played him, he was at Nebraska, and we did win that game. So I guess, I guess they decided to try a different approach, and then because we spent all week thinking they were going to, play kind of that shell quarter half.
Yeah, kind of catch you a little bit.
Yeah. That he's got an identity around, and really had some great defenses doing that, and that's what he did previously at LSU, and so there was an ambush factor, I guess, a little bit with the man, but then after we quit getting sacked a few times, took some licks kind of early, then adjusted to the man. Well, then we were happy they played man, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you wonder it's an ambush until you would think once you're getting ambushed, you may change the tactic. But listen, whatever wins the war, and you guys won that and really jumped on the scene. And Coach, you're entering your second season, and obviously the first season. And I'll say this about any new coach coming in anywhere, whether it's Shane Beamer at South Carolina, Ryan Harsin at Auburn, Josh Heupel at Tennessee, you've got to get your culture and your foundation and your roster going in the direction that you want. And going into year two, you've been able to adjust the roster a little bit. Some people say trim the fat, however you want to call it. I don't even know what they call it nowadays. But going into this year, you just get done with spring. You have your spring game. How do you feel now coming out of spring practice and going into year two? Will Rogers, a year under his belt, got some great experience. I mean, you think about the Georgia game last year and some of the games you guys were really in. How do you feel about this team going into year two? Because I do know you have to replace a decent amount as well.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot back because we played a lot of our guys were pressed into service as freshmen and sophomores, which it's better to. And 2 years from now, it's kind of great news, Yeah. So I guess that I don't know. You just kind of constantly try to get everybody better. One thing early on as a coach, there's you got to get everybody bought in. And anytime there's a coaching change, there's some confusion. And then last year, of course, it was exacerbated by the the COVID. I mean, are we playing? Are we not? Are we practicing? Are we not? Are we going to go to school? No, you can't go to school. And so, the circumstances were about as joyless and disruptive as they could possibly be. And, but I did think our group made the most of it. And then, so you didn't have to get acquainted process because you need more time than you have with regard to that, but then there's there's always going to be the buy-in deal. I don't know really any successful program when there's a coaching change where they don't lose a number of people, and I just think that's kind of the dynamics of change. And so some guys you lose for good reasons. Some guys are guys that some guys are guys that that the other guy just didn't get to cut. He's planning to, he's gonna cut him, but he just didn't get to him just yet.
No, that's very true.
And I had a guy, this is greatness. Okay, so I had a guy at one of the schools I left, and at one of the schools I left, and so I cut the guy after the bowl game. Well, so then the next coach comes in, and this guy comes front and center, because sometimes the next coach will call me and ask about the roster and the various players. So this guy, he asked me about the kid I cut, and because he was having some misgivings as well, and so I said, well, I guess the guy just, right after the bowl, just showed up back to work. Just didn't say anything to anybody. Just went right back in there. It's like George Costanza when he got, when George Costanza got fired from his job,
Mm-hmm.
just shows up the next day, and I guess that's what this guy did. But, anytime you have 120 people, there's always going to be a couple that, just don't abide by the rules and don't belong in college football, period. Okay. Then there's also going to be, some guys that don't adjust to the change well and maybe had their eye on going somewhere else anyway because they weren't playing too much previously. And so they were going to leave because they wanted to get on the field, which that's totally understandable because, somebody wants to get on the field and is desperately trying to do that. That's tough to argue with, provided they do it in a well-educated fashion. I mean, everybody's got to push through something. And under the best of circumstances, college football is challenging. So you hate to see guys just jump on the portal because, unless they saw there, they're just going to go break themselves into the same problems they left. And then, sometimes it just doesn't match up as well, or the new staff, has a different philosophy and different guys that, center better around what they're trying to accomplish. So there's all of that. And so there's always going to be some attrition, and I'm sure there is with all the other coaches you mentioned. In my case, there always has been, and I think that's part of it. So sometimes the media all gets alarmed. They'll say, "Oh, this guy left, that guy left." That there's going to be guys leave, and you just don't know who it's going to be from time to time.
No, that's exactly right. And my last question here for head Mississippi State football coach Mike Leach. Really appreciate him joining us. What is it like sharing the state with Lane Kiffin and the Egg Bowl coming up this year? How intense is that, and how excited are you about this rivalry? Because we all know how active Coach Kiffin is on Twitter. I've got to get him on the show. But what's it like sharing the state with him? And we know that Ole Miss Mississippi State rivalry is really cooking.
Well, he's a fun guy, and I've known him for a long time, and I enjoy him and always have. And no, I think it's good. I mean, it's good to have a guy up the road and stuff. We definitely want to beat Ole Miss, and it's it's one of the great storied rivalries, and get the Egg Bowl back, and all that. But no, I think it's a great rivalry. It's a tremendous rivalry from the whole in-state thing and the history between the two schools. So I think all that's exciting, and it is fun, and it is fun to have him up the road. And as far as intensity, I mean, you should be full intensity, full performance, full effort every time you play. So from that standpoint, games are the same, except for definitely fans and players get a little more excited about that one for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And me being from the state of Alabama and obviously the Auburn-Alabama game, I know all about how it is sharing a state. And Coach, I really appreciate you taking some time. I know you're a busy man. You guys just got done with spring. I wish you the best of luck in this next season. Would love to get you back on as we move closer toward the season. I know you guys got big things coming. But I do, man, I really appreciate you coming on, Coach.
Well, I'd be honored to be on anytime. Sorry we've had trouble connecting, but I look forward to doing it again.
Yes, sir. And like I said, best of luck, and have fun. Enjoy the little time off you get. I know how it goes now that spring's over. Appreciate you guys joining us as well at home. Make sure you subscribe, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Go to the jboyshow.com. Get you some merchandise. I got to send Coach Leach one of our hoodies, one of those black hoodies. It's got a real pirate vibe to it. I know he'll appreciate it. But again, I really appreciate Coach Leach. It's been another edition of the Jboy Show, and Jboy's going. Gone.
The Jboy Show is produced by David Cohn, Technical Director Dave Hammock, Creative Director David Culbertson, Audio Engineer Feyzan Shareef, Production Assistants Blaine Crain and Kyle Orr, Executive Producers Jake Crain, Vince Thompson, Steve Chamberlain, and David Cohn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, thejboyshow.com, for updates regarding our newest apparel and merch designs. Win the water cooler with the Jboy Show.